Hi, Shirley. Hi, Ada.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing? Long time no talk to.
I'm
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Ada.
How are
Yeah,
you
long time
doing?
no see you either.
Yeah, I know. I know, but I'm back.
Good.
How has your summer been?
It has been very good. How's yours?
It's been good. Just crazy with all these changes happening.
Yeah, I know. I haven't
Different.
changed a bit though. I have. Yeah, I actually don't even own a mask.
Oh, I've been going. Um, I frequent a small mom and pop health store, so out of respect for them, because they want, they require it, I'll wear it. But as soon as I get around the corner, I put it under my nose. But for the most part, when I get to Walmart or one of the bigger retailers, I don't wear one at all.
Oh, really? I thought they would make you.
No, they're not. If you have a medical condition or something, and they can't ask you.
Oh, okay.
It's really not a law. They try to say it's a requirement, but it's not a law.
Right.
But like I said, some stores say they require it, so I try to respect the ones that I want to go in and shop at and do what I need to do and get out. But I'm over the mask. I'm just over all this stuff.
Well, I'm lucky in that I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania,
hmm
where there's a lot of Amish.
Oh,
And they pretty much think everybody's crazy for doing all that.
I think so too. I think it's gonna do more harm than good. And
Yeah,
now,
I mean, if I was, if I have a friend who had COPD or something like that, I
hmm
wouldn't go visit him. I would call him on the phone. So I'm not
hmm
like heartless or anything like that, but I don't, I don't subscribe to the fact that the mask is going to protect somebody from a virus.
right,
It's pretty hard to stop a virus,
it really
you know.
is. I'm like, if you can smell someone's breath through that, then a virus can get through that. Someone made a
Yeah.
meme and said if for lack of a fart, and excuse me if I offend anyone, if a fart can get through two butt cheeks and some jeans, then a virus can get through that mask.
Very good point. Very good point. I agree. I agree.
So yeah,
Yeah,
and
you know what?
mhm,
What really bothers me is this is what I like. If when I'm president of the United States,
mhm,
let me tell you what I'll do.
mhm,
Anytime there's a pandemic that they're afraid might be coming around, I would say, okay, everybody, eat garlic, eat onions, take vitamin C, eat oranges and lemons,
right.
um, get some zinc in you, cut out the
I'll,
sugar, cut out the. I'm sorry, what?
I will vote for you.
You would? All right, that's
Yes,
one down.
exactly.
Yeah, I
But
don't
that's
know
what
what.
they should have came out with. I think they would have done a lot better if they had done that. Also, instead of just automatically giving people antibiotics for a virus,
hmm
which actually makes you more susceptible to a virus,
Correct.
because
Right.
bacteria kills a good, I mean, an antibiotic kills the good bacteria, and the good bacteria is what kills viruses.
I didn't know they were giving people antibiotics. I thought they initially were doing the ventilator, which was taking people out quicker because your lungs were compromised.
Right. Well, um, I only know one person that, and I don't even know them closely, but I have a friend whose brother's girlfriend, old girlfriend, died of COVID. And when she went, they gave her a bunch of antibiotics and they just sent her home. And she
Wow.
took the antibiotics, and the next morning
Wow.
she was dead, even though she wasn't even that sick. She
The
just went
next
because everybody
morning?
said, "Oh, you better go. It might be COVID."
Wow.
But you don't give an antibiotic for a virus.
Right. Well, now that the weather is changing and I sleep with the fan on, so in the middle of the night it's cold. My
Mhm.
bronchitis is kicked up and now I'm coughing. So if I have to go to a store, I have to chew gum to make sure. Because if I cough in public,
Yeah,
Oh, I know
that's
people
true.
are so afraid. Well,
oh
I
my.
work a lot with obsessive compulsive disorder and general anxiety disorder,
Mhm.
and daily I have multiple people call me up. They're going through hell. I
Wow.
mean, they're germaphobes and they don't like touching anything and stuff like that. And then before this
Yeah.
virus was going to kill you, propaganda was going on. It
Wow,
breaks my heart.
that's
Wow.
Yeah,
that's very
it's
sad.
it is.
And the B vitamins, the omega-3 is good for that, right?
For the nervous system, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, but I mean, it takes good 2 years to work with your
Really?
nervous system, and a
Wow.
lot of these people are relatively new in the
Oh.
program, and they haven't, you know, you don't heal overnight with the nervous system,
Mhm.
and they are just going through torment, absolute torment.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Wow. Mm.
There's Joanne. Hello, Joanne, and Deb. Hi, Deb.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Glad to be back.
I
Seems like
don't
it's
know
been
why
forever.
I don't know why we can hear you because your little phone is gray.
Oh, I guess it's just sad. So
So
you can
how
hear
is the
me
weather
though,
now?
okay, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good, good.
Is there a way
Hello?
after this class we can talk for about 5 minutes? Could you call me, or
Yeah,
I can call
sure.
you if you Facebook me your phone number? I can call you.
Either one, that's fine.
Okay. Some people have like long distance, all one price, and some don't. So whatever. I don't want
No,
you to
I
have to
do.
pay
So
for the call. Okay, good. Okie dokie. So how's the weather down there?
Oh, hot, ridiculously hot. How about
You
you?
still? It's getting chilly. I actually put a sweater on today.
Oh, my air is on right now.
Well, I might want to be down there in the summer, in the wintertime, but you won't see me in the summer. So you don't have to lock your doors. I will not be coming during the summer to Florida.
Oh, anytime you're here, my door will be, well, it won't be wide open because then the lizards get in, but it'll be unlocked for you. So.
Okie dokie. So does anybody have any questions before we get started? We have like, what, 3 minutes yet? 2 minutes? Something like that. Hello, whoever's been coming in. There's too many to. Oh, tomorrow. This is what I want to talk to you about. I'll talk to you about tomorrow. I mean, next Tuesday, we're going to have the thing on the diet that I've lost 58.7 pounds on. Yoo-hoo.
Amazing.
But anyhow, we're not going to have anybody brought in to the staff. Just you and the two ladies that are going to help. Okay?
Okay.
We're going to leave everybody else as attendees because we have like 60-some people signed up.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Congratulations, Mary.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But since there's 68, not everyone can get in, and I don't want to, pick and choose and stuff like that. So we're going to just the four of us are going to be in there. So you're going to have to do a lot of questions in the question box. I'm sorry about that, Joanne.
No problem.
I think that's the most fair way of doing it.
No, makes sense.
So no one has questions or anything exciting? Has anybody here had COVID?
No.
Okay, good. Well, not necessarily good, but we're glad you're here.
I don't even know anyone personally who's had it, and considering we're supposed to be like the hotbed.
Yeah. Well, I knew one person that they said died from it, but I think she died from the antibiotics because she just had a little bit of a cough. Went to the doctors, they gave her an antibiotic, and the next morning she woke up dead. Well, she didn't wake up.
Oh, no.
They woke up and they found out that she was dead. So I think it was probably a reaction to the antibiotics.
Oh.
Because COVID doesn't, like, kill you overnight. You know, she went to the doctor at 7 o'clock at night, and the next day morning she was dead. They would have kept her if she was that bad.
Right. Wow.
Okay, doke. So what we're going to have tonight is what, as soon as they said any kind of virus or bacteria was loose, so basically all the time, because there's always bacteria and viruses around us, these are things we're going to cover tonight that no matter what protocol you're on, this is a good base for it. No matter where your health is, this information is what is going to help you. If there's anybody new here, we're very informal. Joanne will, if you put in the chat box any questions, Joanne will ask them because I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. And she'll say, yo, Mary, shut up. I have a question to ask you. But she's politer than that. And we'll answer whatever questions you want to. But this is information that I personally think everyone should do. Okay, here's our disclaimer. Don't stop your medication and don't stop going to the doctor just because you're taking these classes. There's a time and a place for everything, even doctors. Okay, there are 9 basic things we're going to go over. And these are they. These are they. First, our bowel movements. Whenever I first started taking herbs or learning about herbs, my first class that I went to, there was a lady, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't my first class, but one of my first classes. There was a lady that that had said that, she said, do you want to see these pictures? And I said, well, sure. And I figured she had a dog or a cat or a child or something like that. She has these pictures of bowel movements. I thought, oh, these are different kind of people. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to fit in. And then another class that I went to, there was a guy there, and we went around the class. We told everybody what we did, and he says, I'm a coroner. We all kind of looked over and like, well, isn't it a little bit too late? And he says, I'm here because I know that death begins at a colon, and I want to learn how to help people before they end up on our slab. He said that they would have a thing, this is in Pennsylvania, that they would have a thing that the different coroner offices, I guess it's a little trophy or something is what they made it sound like, of whoever had the largest colon from an autopsy. They would weigh the large intestines, which is the last 5 to 8 feet, unless you're real tall, it's usually around 5 feet, of a person's intestines. And whoever had the intestines that weighed the most, they would send this little trophy to them, and they would have it until somebody broke their record. And at the time, he said, we had the record. There's a gentleman that we removed his colon, and his colon weighed 69 pounds. So there's 69 pounds of fecal matter in that gentleman's intestines. That guy also told us, he says, I know that that truly is what causes a lot of people to die, is all of that fecal matter in there. Okay. Somebody said they don't have sound. Can everybody hear me? Sometimes if the person doesn't have sound, if you sign out and you come back in, sometimes you'll get the sound. Okay. Alrighty. So bowel movements is very important. I don't know if it's the cause of most diseases and death, but I do know it's extremely important. In the natural health field, we talk about train in, train out. That's basically what should happen. When you eat and the food goes into the stomach, that should trigger the food in the small intestines to empty into the large intestines, and the large intestines to evacuate into the toilet. So when you have a bowel movement right after you eat, it's not what you've just eaten, it's what you ate 2 meals ago, typically, unless you have diarrhea or something like that, or the flu. So train in, train out. If you eat 3 times a day, ideally you should have 3 bowel movements a day. If you eat once a day, you should still have 2 to 3 bowel movements every day. If you think about it, if you have a hamburger and you stick it on the table in the summertime at 90-degree weather, 24 hours later, you wouldn't want to eat that hamburger, right? That's how it is in the intestines. If you eat a hamburger and it stays in your intestines at 98.6 degrees, it will become very toxic and rot, for lack of a better word. And that's not good for your body to absorb that anymore. It is one of the main reasons for autoimmune diseases. There's just a handful of reasons for the 80 different autoimmune diseases out there. But let's say you don't have train in and train out, and the feces is going very slow through the intestines. When the villi and the microvilli pull in the nutrients, it will pull in that food that has been rotted and become toxic. Then when the body takes those nutrients to make new cells, the cells will be rotted or have rotted material. You can't make a superior cell from rotted material. If you have train in, train out, then when the body makes a new cell, the cell is healthy and the body leaves it alone. But if it's really toxic, the body's immune system will attack that toxicity. And that's what an autoimmune disease is. Most people don't do this. Older generations, even older than me, believe it or not, there are some people on this earth older than I am, they didn't even used to talk about bowel movements. I remember one time I was in my other house, and this cute little old lady, she was so sweet, you just want to tweak her cheeks. And I asked about bowel movements. She says, I have a problem with that. And it was just her and I in the room, and I says, why are you whispering? She said, well, I have a problem. I don't go number 2 very often. But it was like, you didn't even talk about it. She felt like she had to whisper about it. Well, you know what? We all go. And if you don't, that's not healthy, and you need to change it. So I'm just curious to see if we're average here or not. How many people have 3 bowel movements a day? Please put a Y or an N in the chat box, unless you're driving in a car.
No, yes, no, no.
Okay. Then
No.
every one of you are ending up being more toxic than what you need to be, which your body's going to rebel. You can't have those toxins in your body and your body not rebel. Things that I would do to get my bowels moving every day is 60% of my diet raw vegetables, 20% of my diet raw fruits. I did that for years and felt wonderful. I do have to do a disclaimer. I'm on a diet that I don't eat as many raw vegetables. And I don't plan on being this diet the rest of my life. I do plan on doing it until I lose all my weight. Then I'll go back to eating my vegetables. But I don't want you to think I'm a hypocrite because I'm not eating that right now. And you know what? I miss it, and my bowels miss that. I usually eat about 70% of my diet raw vegetables. You feel so much better when you eat like that. And you feel so much better when you're having 2, preferably 3 bowel movements a day. Trust me, you really, really do. Okay, this is someone in the eye, because we do iridology, and I teach iridology. In the spring, I'm going to be teaching iridology. But you see how dark this is around the pupil? If you have that in the iris of your eye, you know that chances are there is some old fecal matter that is compressed on the sides, the inside of your intestines. If around this autonomic nerve wreath or collarette, this little edging around here, if you see toxin go beyond that, then you know you have leaky gut syndrome, where you're toxic enough, and chances are you don't have enough good probiotics in your intestines, that the toxins from the intestines are leaching out through the intestinal wall. So if
Sorry. Someone wants to know which raw veggies and how do you prepare them?
I rinse them up and cut them up. That's how I prepare them. Whenever I used to eat all the raw vegetables, like right now I just have celery, cucumbers, tomatoes, broccoli, those kind. But I used to eat carrots and beets and radishes, and I can still eat zucchini and squash. So I eat those. But anything that's a vegetable, I don't know of any vegetable that is unhealthy for you. I really don't. Dandelion, endive, romaine lettuce are the best, for lettuces. Give me some green beans. You can eat green beans raw. You can eat peas raw. Those kind of things. Good question. First question of the year. They should get an apple or something. Okay, any other questions?
Someone says, I eat even pumpkin raw. It's good.
Yep. People eat pumpkin raw. Usually that's better if you shred it, though. I don't like the texture of zucchini, squash, or pumpkin raw. I like it whenever you shred it. However, potato is not really, really a vegetable because it is a tubular. It's not really good to eat a lot of potato raw, especially if they're green, because there's a toxin in them. But I have one of these things that I bought at the store that I put my zucchini and squash on. It's like this thing is like accordion, and you can put it in between, and you smush it together, and there's like these little nubs that go in, and you spin it, and it makes it really, really thin. I like it like that. I like zucchini in my salad and squash in my salad whenever it's real thin like that. For the pumpkin, to eat the pumpkin raw, I put it in a food processor that is like shreds it. Then you just sprinkle it on your salad. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if you are having less than 3 bowel movements a day, I would do something. Typically what I start out with is liver cleanse formula, because if the liver was producing enough hormones, it would cause the peristaltic action to happen. So I usually suggest liver cleanse. If the muscles don't have enough strength to move the feces along, then you add magnesium. So if I was having a bowel movement just once a day or twice a day, I would probably take some Cascaris, I'd take some liver cleanse, and I would take some magnesium. and then eat a good raw diet. If I was having less than one every other day, I would probably also add a little bit of LBS2 or Cascara or something like that. If the feces was dry or hard, like you got impacted, I would add slippery elm or something called Everybody's Fiber. Okay, so this is pretty much for anyone who doesn't get diarrhea. Oops. If you go twice a day, but you still, it's hard to go, you know, it's like dry, you can add some slippery elm. If you have going too often, some people that are impacted will go too often. Some people have a pH imbalance that the body's trying to get rid of the acid. They'll go too often. The best thing to do to slow that down, I believe, is Everybody's Fiber. It gives fiber to bulk it up so the intestines has something to push on. You know, if you have a brand new tube of toothpaste and you squeeze it, all the stuff comes out. But by the end of you're almost ready to throw it away, it's really hard. You have to work really hard to get the toothpaste out. Well, your intestines is the same way. There's a lot of fiber bulking it up. The muscle, when it does contract, can push it along easier than if not. But if it's too watery, and we're leaving the analogy of the toothpaste, if it's too watery, you need some bulk to slow things down. And Everybody's Fiber. So that's why people take slippery elm and Everybody's Fiber if they're constipated or if they have diarrhea. It helps keep the right moisture in there, the right consistency, and it normalizes. And then there's the extra help of absorbing toxins and the acid. And make sure you have the good diet, the raw vegetables, plenty of good water, and work with the liver. Any questions about bowel movements?
No questions so far.
Okie dokie. And I work with the bowel before I work with the liver, because the liver is going to be filtering stuff out and dumping in the intestines. If you don't move your bowels, your body's just going to reabsorb it again. Ironically, there was a medical doctor that was here right before we got on. I'm not going to tell you his name, of course. But he started taking herbs, and it made things worse. His joints start swelling and stuff like that. Well, he wasn't having bowel movements 3 times a day. So whenever he was taking Unadagato, which really takes a lot of acid and toxins out of the tissue and dumps it through the liver, and then it dumped it into the bowel, he wasn't excreting it, so he was reabsorbing it. So make sure that your liver is doing its job. There's 2 ways that you can do it. One is you can do something called the 1-day liver and gallbladder flushes, and there's different types of these. Some people take Epsom salts with it, and there's different things that people take. I like the 1 day because it's not too harsh on the liver. However, if you are having a gallbladder flare-up, like gallstones, or if you have hepatitis C of the liver or fatty liver, you don't do this. So caution, you don't do it because you can cause some problems for you. But it's apple juice, lemon juice, and olive oil. All day long, you drink the clear apple juice, not cider, apple cider. It doesn't work as well. Then a half hour before you go to bed, you squeeze a half a cup of fresh lemon, not the little plastic pretend lemon, but the real lemon, and a half a cup of cold pressed olive oil. And it needs to be extra virgin, double virgin, cold pressed, first pressed. It goes by various names. And then you lay on your right side with a pillow under your hip. The apple juice kind of pre-soaks. It's like spraying Granny or pre-soaking a stain. Then the lemon will smooth off any stones. And, well, lemon's used for cleansing as well. And then the heaviness of the olive oil is believed to go through, and it'll pull out gallstones, and it will pull out toxins that are in the liver. I've done this, and I pass oodles and oodles of stones. If you do that, you have to make darn sure that the next 2 days that you have at least 3 bowel movements a day so you don't reabsorb the toxins, because all those toxins from the liver is going to go in the intestines again. If you don't get rid of it, it can make you very, very sick. The other way that you can detox the liver is by my favorite herbal combination ever, Liver Cleanse Formula. It's just made of dandelion and red beetroot, and I think there is some common dock in it, yellow dock. Just simple foods are in it, but it is amazing. I just love this combination. If you have symptoms of liver, and the symptoms of the liver would be tightness in your shoulders, less than 3 bowel movements a day, moles, skin tags, psoriasis, female problems, heavy periods, miscarriage, endometriosis, all that stuff, prostate problems for a man. All those things are symptoms that your liver is not hunky-dory. If you had that, then I would take Liver Cleanse Formula. I'd probably start with 3 a day, although that doctor that just left, I told him to take 10 a day because his liver is in pretty bad shape. I would start with 3 a day. Then the next week, if I didn't sleep the whole night through, I would take 4 a day. If I still didn't sleep the whole night through, the next week I would take 5 a day. And all herbs that we're going to be suggesting today, you break it up. Like half in the morning, half at night. And I would keep increasing until I would sleep the whole night through without waking up to go pee, to look at the clock, to fluff the pillows, or anything like that. I would also avoid unnecessary medication. I know people that have, this one gentleman came to me that took this antifungal medicine because he didn't like the way his toenail looked. And it ended up destroying his liver, and he died of it before the herbs that I had suggested for him even got to him. He had passed away. He could have lived with a little toe fungus, So something that isn't, of course, if you're on heart medicine or thyroid medicine or blood pressure medicine, something like that, don't go off of that. But if it's to grow hair or clean up your toenails or anything else, I think equally as unwise, I would stop doing it. I would also stay away from Tylenol. My chiropractor told me that Tylenol is the most toxic medicine for the liver next to methotrexate. Okay. Anybody have questions about any of that?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Sometimes when the liver's been weak for a long, long time, then you start having problems with your night vision. If you have problems with your night vision, you may want to do castor oil packs. You take castor oil and you soak it on unbleached white cotton material or flannel or whatever. and then you soak it and you put it over where your liver is. Usually they don't put it on the whole liver, but you put it on the liver so that it can absorb it. And then you tape it on with wax paper. Do not use plastic wrap because the ricinoleic acid in the castor oil can break down the formaldehyde that's in plastic wrap, and your body will absorb that. And that can be very toxic to the body. And if I know Joanne, I bet you she already put a link in there on how to do it. Am I right, Joanne?
Yes.
Thank you. I knew it. I knew it. And then you leave it on all night, and then you wake up in the morning and you wash that area off. Either throw away the rag or wash it. Don't reuse it. I know there's a couple websites online that say, oh, you can just use them over and over again. No, because there's toxins in it. I wouldn't do that. I would wash it or get a new one. Then I suggest the DAS diet: dandelion, asparagus, and zucchini. These 3 foods that you can get either in your yard, you can grow it in your yard, or you can get it at the grocery store, is very good for the liver. It really nourishes the liver. Okay, another question. How many people here with a yes or a no, or put a Y or an N, don't spell it out so we can tell us from the other one, a Y or an N, how many people sleep the whole night through?
Lots of no's. 1 yes.
Okay. Well, even if you have no other symptoms, if you wake up during the night, then I would do the liver cleanse. If a mother is nursing and her child wakes up during the night, a lot of times if she takes the liver cleanse herself, and she has to go slowly so toxins don't get into the breast milk, or if you have an animal that wakes you up during the night, open up some liver cleanse and put it in their food. And typically they'll sleep the whole night through too. Any questions about liver?
No questions.
Okay, just curious. You said there's some people that said that they did sleep the whole night through?
One person said yes, they sleep through the night.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. I'm just curious, by any chance, did you ever take liver cleanse?
Shanti?
I'm just curious. All right. The next thing that's really...
She takes milk thistle daily.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Although I think, personally, liver cleanse formula is infinitely better than milk thistle, but you're nourishing your liver, so I can see how that would help. Okay, so the number 3 thing that I would do.
I'm sorry, there's one more comment. Someone says, I don't sleep the whole night through and usually don't fall asleep until 2 or 3 a.m.
Well, the not falling asleep can be either the nervous system or the adrenals. But if you fall asleep and you wake up, that, unless, the smoke alarm's going off or something like that, that is typically liver. So you can have more than one thing disrupting your sleep. I don't know, do we talk about adrenals on here? If not, remind me at the end to tell her what to do to be able to fall asleep.
Okay.
If you're not tired at night and you don't go to sleep because you're just have all this energy, that indicates that there's an adrenal problem. But if you have a hard time falling asleep because you can't get comfortable, you're tired, but you can't get comfortable, you can't shut your mind off, you think, oh man, tomorrow I got to do this, this, and this, that's your nervous system. And we're going to talk about that right now. I know there's people that go on very little sleep. I know people say, hey, 2 hours, I'm good. No. You need to sleep at least 8 hours because that's the only time your body heals efficiently. Not only do you have to sleep for 8 hours, but you need to make sure you dream. We'll get to that next. But you need to make sure you sleep 6 to 8 hours, no less than 6, at least 6 to 8. 9's not too bad if you're doing that. Don't worry about it. But if someone's only sleeping 2 or 3 hours in a 24-hour period, their body is going to have a real hard time replenishing itself. So getting a good night's sleep is important. If you're waking up between 1 and 5, remember, that's liver. But if you can't fall asleep, it's usually the nervous system. Symptoms of the nervous system is noise, commotion, people get on your nerves. Maybe you have a hard time concentrating, keeping focused. And if you do not remember your dreams every night, every single night, not only do you need to sleep for 8 hours, but you need to get in the dream level of sleep. That's when you heal the absolute most efficient. Also, whenever you dream every night, you know that you have the nutrients that the nervous system needs to get you in that level of sleep. How many people here put an A if you sleep the whole night through? If you dream every night, put a B if you don't dream every night or if you have a nightmare. Because a nightmare is not a dream. A nightmare is whenever you were angry, upset, afraid, lonely, sad, frustrated, that kind of stuff. How many people dream every night?
2 A's, a D, 3 B's. And one says A, but sometimes B.
Okay. Then I would work on your nervous system. I would take fatty acids because the myelin on the outside of your nerve is probably thinner than it should be. There's a coating. And not next week, the week after. The week after, we are having a class on the nervous system. Next week is going to be in that weight loss. I lost 58.7 pounds on. Sorry. I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, anyhow, so 2 weeks we're going to really, really talk about the nervous system. This is just like the Reader's Digest version. Since the outside of the nerve is made of fats, we need to make sure your liver is working well, so I would take liver cleanse because the liver breaks down the fats and produces cholesterol. Then I would probably take hemp oil or flaxseed oil or evening primrose oil, borage oil, some kind of oil like coconut oil, something like that. Now I'm going to say something. Nature's Sunshine sells a Kemp Zero, but I use hemp oil that's called Nativa because I think it's just as good and it is a lot cheaper. I don't know why Nature's Sunshine is charging so much for their Kemp Zero. The other stuff's pretty well priced, but not so much the Kemp Zero. I think it's a little bit of a ripoff. Okay, so I would do some kind of plant-based oil. Then I would do Super Omega-3 oil, and I would only do Nature's Sunshine Super Omega-3 oil. I don't even suggest any other ones anymore because they're the purest. They have a patented distilling process that it's the best that's out there. And then I would take them with a protein so the liver knows it needs to digest it. I would probably take some kind of Nervine if you're not dreaming every night. Chinese stress relief is like my favorite. There is one a little bit cheaper that some people can get away with, nerve control. But if I was a multimillionaire, I would only suggest, or I'd give away everybody Chinese stress relief. because I think it's better than the nerve control. How about you, Joanne? What do you use mostly?
I only recommend the Chinese stress relief because I've had other people. I've never had anyone have a bad reaction with Chinese stress relief.
Okay, right. And then B complex, sometimes. I would rather a person eat fermented foods so their body produces its own B vitamins. But for whatever reason, let's say they had a colostomy and you have no intestines to put the good bacteria in, then you might want to take B vitamins. But I like the fermented foods best. And good news, Nature Sunshine now has methyl Bs, so you don't have a bad reaction to those. I would probably do about 6 to 8 grams, 6 to 8 grams of the fish oil. And my mouth is messed up. And I would do about 4 teaspoons of the oil for the protein. Chinese stress relief, I usually get the plain, not the concentrated like you see here, the plain one. And I would start with what's on the bottle, and I would add 1 capsule a day per week until you remember your dreams for about 20 minutes. Rather than just taking 30 at a time, start out slow and build up, because the body has to learn to digest this, and the body needs time to heal. These aren't medications that you take to artificially put you in a level of sleep. It is trying to nourish your body so that it works properly, that you sleep the whole night through and you dream every night. So it takes time. If you broke a leg, no matter how much calcium you take, it's not going to be healed tomorrow or the next day. It's going to take time to heal. Same with these. Okay, are there any questions?
Yes. Someone says if they eat garlic, they wake up more often.
And what seems to wake you up? I mean, do you have to go pee? Do you have acid reflux?
Jessica?
Okay. That's okay. She doesn't want to, If she says something, stop me and I'll go and answer it.
She says to go pee and also just for no reason.
Okay. I don't know why the garlic would make you go pee. Well, I don't know why that happens, Jessica. I can't think of a reason why it would happen. Do you, Joanne?
The garlic,
because there's sulfur, allicin.
Right. So if the liver is weak, then the sulfur is not digested.
I don't know. I don't know why that happens, Jessica. But if you email me, I will try to find out. Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, 2 more. So someone wants to know if there will be access to this recording afterwards.
I will post it on our YouTube channel. Email Joanne or myself, and we will send you the link. But I won't be able to be putting it up until tomorrow.
And someone wants to know all the links that I post. How will they have access? On the little box for GoToWebinar, where it says file, if you click on that, there's the second option is save chat log, and that should give you access. That'll save everything that's been written in the chat box, and then you should be able to pull that up after. And then another question is, Chinese Stress Relief a brand?
Yes, it's Nature Sunshine.
And Charlie was saying, I wonder if excessive garlic kills off good bacteria, B vitamins, causing her to wake.
Well, that would keep you from dreaming, perhaps. I don't know if garlic, you'd have to eat a lot of garlic to kill off your B vitamins. I know it's known as Russia's natural antibiotic, but it doesn't kill the good bacteria off, just a minute fraction compared to an antibiotic. I don't know. You might be right. I'll have to research it more. That's something I'll look into. I'll definitely see if that's a correlation.
And Jessica says her dreams are more vivid when she eats garlic too.
Okay, well, do you mind emailing me that, Jessica, and I'll look it up? Because I haven't heard of that. I've had people say they wake up with heartburn because of garlic and of onions and different foods, but I haven't heard that particular thing. Okay, are there any other questions?
No, she says she never gets heartburn, so she'll email you.
Okay. Okie dokie. So any questions about dreaming every night? And you heal when you sleep. You heal most efficiently while you're dreaming, when you're in that level of sleep. So you want to make sure your nervous system has enough nutrients, and if it does have enough nutrients, then you dream, and you want to make sure that you are healing as efficiently as you can. No questions? Okay. Number 5 thing, and these are pretty much in order of how I think important they are, although I'm almost tempted to put balancing pH as number 3, but you need to sleep and stuff, I guess. We're going to do it in this order. If your pH is balanced, you are able to absorb nutrients in a way that you can't. So let's say this is a cell of the body. These are both cells. If your pH is normal, nutrients can get into the cell and toxins can get out of the cell very easily. The cell will only be one membrane thick, and that is the skin or the coating of your cell. The skin, let's say, of your cell. If the pH is off, either too acidic or too alkaline, the body will try to protect what's inside the cell by making the cell a little bit thicker, maybe 2 or 3 cells thick. And in doing so, it's harder for nutrients to get in and toxins to get out. So balancing your pH is huge. Countless times, I mean, more than I can even guesstimate. People have come to me and I'll say, well, your thyroid's a little bit weak. Let's give you this. Oh, no, I tried that. It didn't do anything for me. And we'll test her pH, and her pH will be like 5.5. Well, the thyroid, the cells of the thyroid, cannot absorb iodine, which is the main nutrient needed for the thyroid, unless your pH is 6.3 to 6.7, or actually 6.6, I'm sorry, 6.6. So if your pH is off, the nutrients that you're taking can't get into the cells. You take all you want to, and it'll just fly around in the blood for a while until the liver filters it out and you excrete it. So I'll say, let's work on your pH and then try it again. And they'll come back and they'll say, that stuff is wonderful. It's working amazingly. And it's because their pH was off. Any questions about pH? We have a whole class on pH. I don't know when we're going to teach it. I usually teach it twice a year. If you can't make another class, I would try to make that class.
I also posted the one that you have on YouTube. So
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, and this is something too. If you click on the post that Joanne just put up, it will show up like this. Then you can just minimize it, make it smaller, and watch the rest of this. And then afterwards, you can save it or watch it or whatever you want to do. Or like Joanne said, you can save the chat with a link on there. What would we do without Joanne? These classes would not be nearly as good. They wouldn't be. Because I couldn't think and do that at the same time.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so your saliva should be between 6.3 and 6.6. Your urine ideally should be around the same thing, around 6.3 to 6.6, although it can bounce around a little bit more. But the fluid that goes around the cells tells you whether or not it's going to get thick. And that pH should be the same as your saliva pH. If you test your saliva, it's the exact same number as this, good or bad or ugly. Your skin should be slightly acidic. There's a lot of people, especially with this COVID, that are washing their hands raw. I mean, it just looked like this one person that came, it looked like someone took all her skin off. Just heartbreaking, because she kept on washing her hands. She was afraid of the COVID. What you don't realize is your skin should be a little bit acidic, 5.5, to kill bacteria and viruses. Your skin is the first line of defense. If you wash your hands, especially with a lot of this antibiotic soap and stuff like that, you change the pH of your skin, and viruses and bacteria are more likely to enter through the skin. So you're not doing yourself a huge justice by washing your hands all excessively. If you go to the bathroom, wash your hands. If you come home from the store, typically wash your hands. For those people that don't wash their hands when they go to the bathroom, or whatever. But wash your hands like a couple times. But to wash your hands all day long is going to work against you. The pH of your tears should be slightly acidic. If they're not, you could be prone to eye infections. If it's too alkaline, because it doesn't kill off the bacteria. If it's too acidic, it can make your eyes feel dry. I suspect the Sojourns, I'm not pronouncing that right. Sojourns, I think it is. It's a condition where your eyes dry out and your mouth dries out. I think part of that is because your eyes are too acidic. But if your tears are 6.5, and all you do is, put a little bit of something that might, like onions or something, and smell it so your eyes water, and just test the tear. And if it's 6.5, then you know that it's what it should be. Breast milk should be 8.0. You can just express a little bit of milk out and see it should turn a darker color. Now your blood, if your saliva is normal and your urine is within normal range, your blood will be normal. Because if you put blood on the stick, you can't test it because it changes the color in it. But if the saliva and the urine are okay, then the blood will be too. The pH of your blood should be 7.41, and that link that Joanne gave will explain that. People that end up with clogging arteries or plaque in their arteries, they do so typically because their blood pH is not 7.41. And again, either take that class or watch the link that Joanne put in the box. Water itself should be 7.0. I use reverse osmosis water, which is a little bit acidic, but typically, like right now, once in a while, I'll take a liquid chlorophyll pill to bring my pH up to where it should be. Or before I ate a lot of raw vegetables and a lot of raw fruits, which kept my pH up to where it should be. Because I don't know of any place that has really good water, like tap water. Even well water has a lot of junk in it a lot of times. If you are too acidic or if you are too alkaline, if you contact Joanne, and we're going to give her email, Joanne, you can put it in there now if you want to, her email and her phone number, stuff like that at the bottom, we can help you balance out your pH. It will probably be something, if you're alkaline, liquid calcium. If you're not, probably some kind of a good calcium. If you have a pH imbalance is selling in a certain organ, let's say you have inflammation of the kidney or nephritis, or if you have blood in your urine, or if you have blood in the bladder, or stones in the bladder, if you have gallstones, marshmallow root is very good for that. If you have problems with acid reflux, slippery elm for the intestines, not just the intestines, but for the esophagus as well, slippery elm is amazing. I'm sure you've heard of people having bladder infections a lot because their urine is too alkaline. Well, cranberry, and you don't have to get cranberry buku, although it works really well. You just get pure cranberry juice that's unsweetened and drink it. And it will do two things. It causes the wall of the bladder to be slightly acidic so that bacteria cannot grow and travel. And it also has something called D-mannose in it, which is a glyconutrient, D-mannose, that acts like Tupperware for the bladder and the ureters and the urethra. So it coats it with like a Tupper. It's not really Tupperware, of course, but like, not Tupperware. Oh,
Teflon.
What's that non-stick stuff? Huh?
Teflon.
Yes, thank you, Teflon. Skip the Tupperware. Teflon, thank you, Joanne. It will like Teflon coat the bladder, the urethra, and the ureters so that the bacteria cannot hang on. Then when you urinate, most of it gets washed away. For the skin, Nature's Concentrate is good. But typically, if you don't overwash your hands, if you drink plenty of water, and you eat a good diet, you don't have to worry about that. It's rare for someone to actually have to use this. If your joints start getting stiff, or your muscles, or if you have a problem with your respiratory system, like if your pH is off, you're more susceptible to allergies, seasonal allergies, or allergies of any sort, respiratory allergies, then I would suggest Una de Gato. Una de Gato pulls acid and things from the extremities into the intestines so that you can excrete it. Just make sure you're having 3 bowel movements a day so your body doesn't reabsorb that stuff. Yucca is good for the joints too. And there's something Nature Sunshine has. I don't know if they still have. They still have joint support, do you know? Joanne?
I am
Oh,
not
and by the
sure.
way,
I'll
they
look.
changed the name. I'm sorry, what?
Oh, sorry. No, I was saying I'm not sure. I'll look.
Okay. Una de Gato, they changed the name to Cat's Claw. So if anybody's looking for it, Cat's Claw is the same thing. Safflower's help breaks up uric acid. And lemon. Lemon in the water is very helpful. Ironically, lemon outside the body is acidic, but as it goes through the body, it leaves an alkalizing ash. But if you're alkaline, you can still take it. It's one of those weird things. It normalizes the pH. Okay, any questions about balancing your pH?
No questions.
Okey-doke. Alrighty. Make sure you balance out your yeast. There's a lot of people that have yeast overgrowth in their body. A lot of people. Joanne, you read eyes and stuff like that. I would say easily 2 out of 10 people have yeast problems. What do you think?
I see quite a lot.
Do you think I'm overstating by saying like 1 out of 5?
I'd say even more than that. I think that's understating it.
Okay. So I'm not exaggerating is what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Oh,
So
no,
there's a
no,
lot of
definitely
people.
not.
Okay, there's a lot of people out there that have yeast. It can be out of control in the intestines. And that's bad enough. And if that's the case, I would eat fermented foods and try to build up the good bacteria that eats the yeast. It actually consumes the yeast, and it excretes B vitamins. That's how the body produces B vitamins. So I would try to make sure I have good probiotics, a lot of fermented food in my diet. If the yeast escapes, you can end up with things like, if you're heavy in the folds of your skin, you can get like chaffed or sore and raw. I used to have that underneath my underarms. When I stopped underarm deodorant, oh, I felt like my underarms were burnt, scalded. You can get vaginal yeast infections. You can get itchiness, vaginal itching, or for a man, jock itch. You can get thick toenails or fingernails. All those are symptoms. By the time they escape the bowels, those are symptoms that your yeast is really, really, really bad. There are 6 basic things that you take, steps that you take to make sure that you keep your yeast under control. One is do not get reinfected. It's best that if you're married and you're going to work on your yeast infection, that your husband also works on his yeast, because yeast can be transmitted sexually. So can some bacteria, especially strep bacteria. So to have him also balance out his yeast. So throw some fermented foods in his salad as well. Another thing is, when you wash your underwear, wash it in really hot water, even if it's colored underwear. I know there's some people that tell me they wash their colored underwear in cold water because they don't want it to fade. Well, you know what? It's a lot easier to buy a new pair of underwear than it is to get rid of a yeast infection. So wash in real hot water. Or what some people do is they take an iron and they iron the crotch of their underwear. And you iron it for quite a while to kill off the yeast. Then you starve out the yeast. Stay away from sugars, breads, noodles, anything that can, fruits, for a while, a period of time, until it starves. You know, if you have a bunch of wolves in your area, and all of the deer and rabbits and stuff like that die out, the wolves will die because they'll have nothing to eat. They'll starve to death. Well, that's basically what happens whenever you stay away from the sugars and stuff like that. That's what yeast eats. If you get rid of what it eats, it will die off. If you ever made bread, I used to make bread, and you put water and you put the yeast in there, and it just kind of, you just had yeasty looking water. But if you put sugar in there, all of a sudden it's like, woof. You would see that, you know, the little yeast was like all happy that it had all this food, and that's what causes the bread to rise. So starve it out. Then you add the natural predator, which would be the fermented foods or probiotics. Probiotics are good. Nature's Sunshine does have probiotic 11, which is 11 different strains, but I still strongly suggest that you do the fermented foods because they have maybe 100 strains, different strains of Bacillus rather than just 11. And then there's some people, of course, that take both. They take some probiotic 11 and then eat fermented food, and that's fine too. The next thing is, and usually 1, 2, and 3 is all that people need if they have just a little bit of yeast. 4, 5, and 6 are, well, 6, keep your pH normal all the time anyhow. But 4 and 5 are for people that have a lot of yeast overgrowth. 1 is to do caprylic acid. You can put caprylic acid on topically. If your husband doesn't want to work on his yeast and doesn't want to wear a condom, then do coconut oil for lubrication. That'll help cut down a little bit because the caprylic acid actually suffocates yeast. I saw a live blood analysis, and this guy had yeast, and you saw it squiggling around in there. Yeast have like little, they're all busybodies, like little bees flying all over, well, not even flying, they were like swimming around everywhere. Then he put a drop of caprylic acid. It was under really major magnification, and you could see the caprylic acid engulfing the yeast and suffocating it. Caprylic acid is especially good if it escapes the bowel because it works in the bloodstream. It actually helps clean the yeast out of the blood, like they did with that live blood analysis. Then, if those don't work, I would add something called yeast fungal. It's a Nature's Sunshine product. I would only take the amount that is on the bottle. Mostly you want the good bacteria to eat the yeast to die off slowly on its own because it gets starved out, and the caprylic acid, which would engulf it. Because when yeast dies, it leaves off a very, very bad toxin. If you take yeast fungal or a bunch of yeast fungal, it will kill those off very quickly, and you could have an autoimmune response to it, like symptoms of arthritis or fibromyalgia or anything like that, any kind of an autoimmune disease. So that is a last resort, and don't go mega dosing. You know me, like for instance, the liver cleanse we were talking about earlier, I was up to 45 a day before I could sleep the whole night through. So I took almost a half a bottle a day because there's nothing in there. I mean, I had no repercussions for doing that much. It's that benign. But the yeast fungal, I wouldn't do that. I would never go over what's on the bottle. Okay, are there any questions about yeast?
Yes.
And we do have
going back.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, finish your thought.
I was just going to say we do have a class called the Yeast Beast. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It. Going back to the pH, someone commented that their saliva is always normal range, but their urine is always too alkaline.
Then you just need to tweak your diet. Just make sure you tweak your diet. Because, and I would take some calcium as well. The reason why the body, anytime something is alkaline, it is because your liver is producing ammonia to combat the pH imbalance. It only does that if it can't steal calcium out of your bones. So I would take some calcium, and then I would make sure you eat that diet. 60% raw vegetables, 20% raw fruit, or less. If you have yeast, then you want a little bit less than that. So say 75% raw vegetables, and then hardly any breads, noodles, sugars. Good question. Anything else?
And someone's asking, what are the signs of excessive yeast?
Well, for in the intestines, you may bloat. Sometimes your feces, especially if you have diarrhea, gets a little bit foamy. If it's in the intestines, you don't always notice it as much. You can see it in the eye by little fermentation dots. You can see it in the eye because zone 1 and zone 2 is sunken in. So you could always send pictures of your eyes and you say, yep, you got yeast. Or we suspect you got yeast. We're not allowed to diagnose, of course. But if it has gone crazy, then you'll get the thick toenails and the thick or thick fingernails, usually toenails first. You might get the jock itch, the UTIs, you know, things like that. You can get sometimes cracks behind your ear, or like a creamy thing against your ear. Sometimes if you scratch your head, you might have a little bit of like a creamy white stuff, things like that. Joanne, by any chance, do you have the link to the YouTube Yeast Beast? I don't think I put it up there, did I?
No, I don't think it's, no. I put what you do have, which is basically the clip from this class. But I did put the link to your article on your website about yeast.
Okay, good, thank you. And we do have a class on yeast. I think it's coming up around Christmas time sometime.
It's November 10th. I posted a link for that as well.
See? If I had money, I would pay you for doing this. You do such a wonderful job. Thank you. Okay,
You've
any
done
other
so
questions?
much for me. Yes, one more. What causes tinea versicolor?
I have no idea what that is. Can you
It's
tell me the
a
symptoms of it?
I had to look it up. It's a common fungal infection of the skin that interferes with the normal pigmentation, resulting in small discolored patches.
Okay. First thing is this. If you have enough good probiotics in your intestines, you won't succumb to funguses. Like some people get funguses on their toenails and some people don't. The people that get fungus on their toenail is because the fungus or the yeast in their intestines is already out of control. So the first thing to do is work where you started from. I would work with the probiotics and the fermented foods, a lot of it. Then you can work with it topically. You can put some like Silver Shield gel on it, or Party Arco, or something that can take care of funguses topically, but it'll just probably pop out somewhere else unless you make sure that the bowel is normal, that there's no fungus, or because yeast is a fungus. So make sure that is not in the intestines. So although I've never heard of that word before, I know my funguses. And I have yet to see a fungus that can overcome the body if the intestines is what it should be with it when it comes to good bacteria. Joanne, do you have any extra suggestions for that?
No, everything you said is what I do.
Okay. Any other
Super,
questions
thank
about
you.
yeast?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. So, this is more yeast. Thrush that babies get is yeast. If a mother had enough probiotics in her intestines, chances are the baby would not get thrush. Because as the baby is born, unless it's cesarean, but when a baby goes through the birth canal, it swallows good bacteria, a lot of good bacteria. And the breast milk should have good bacteria, as long as it has the mother. The mother has it, I mean. What really just burns my bottom is doctors are now testing you right before you deliver a baby to see if you have the strep bacteria. Well, you know what? 90-some% of people in the world have the strep bacteria. But whenever you breastfeed a child, you are going to give your child your immunity. And that child's not going to end up with strep bacteria, with a strep throat or anything like that. That's what they're trying to prevent. I personally, I suggested for my daughter, whenever they test you for strep, tell them you don't want it. You don't have to, at least in Pennsylvania. I don't know, some crazy places like California or something like that, they might have to, but because they do some overkill sometimes when it comes to testing. But I wouldn't, because if you take an antibiotic right before you deliver the baby doesn't get the good probiotics in the birth canal, and it won't be in your breast milk. Therefore, the baby's intestines will never be as healthy with bacteria as it could be. Because the first 20 days, the body kind of takes inventory and says, okay, this is about how much bacteria we need. And it tries to get back to that, but it's really hard to overpopulate it after that, or more than you have after the first 20 days. What I usually suggest people do is to, if a mother, say she had a sore throat and she had an antibiotic. Personally, I think there's other ways of getting around it, but let's just say that she just knew about herbs today, and her child had thrush. I would have the mother take fermented foods and good probiotics. I would also have her put Silver Shield on her nipple and sprinkle a little bit, not like a couple capsules for it, but just a little bit of the probiotic on the Silver Shield on the nipple. When the baby eats, the baby will eat it. The Silver Shield gel is fine to eat. You could suck down a whole bottle of that stuff or a whole tube of that stuff, and it's not going to hurt you. It's EPA certified non-toxic. But if you do that, then usually the thrush is gone, like sometimes overnight. Usually by the next day. I've never had anyone take longer than 2 days, no matter how bad the yeast is. Also, it protects the mother, because the mother can get yeast infections in her breast, in her nipples, which is extremely painful. So that's what I would do for, and I don't know how this happened. Let's see here. And show. This will make more sense to people. I don't know how that got mixed up like that. So it looks like you're supposed to be sipping feet, but you don't sip feet. All right. So that is what I would do for a thrush. If I was an adult, because my son got thrush when he was 23 or 24, we had mono, and that's what we did for him. We gave him some yogurt with some acidophilus in it. He wasn't breastfeeding at the time, 24 is a little old, but we gave him the same thing, the antibiotic, and got rid of the thrush. If you get it in your feet, because that's another sign that it's out of control, you can soak your feet in 50% vinegar and 50% water. Soak it for like 5 or 10 minutes. Then you take a plastic pot scrubber, which is like this. You scrub your feet, and then you leave it back in the water for another 15 5 or 10 minutes. Then you do it again. Then you do that 3 to 5 times in about an hour, half hour, whatever long you want to keep it in there. Then let them air dry. If you want to, you could put some tea tree oil on it, but a lot of times it's not necessary. If it's in your organs or glands, like a lot of times yeast settles in the thyroid. If your doctors found that or our doctors have found that, then just work with the thyroid as well as work with the good probiotics. If it's in the brain, I would do the basic protocol for yeast, and then I would add L-glutamine and frankincense. The frankincense I would not take internally. I would put it in a diffuser, or I would rub it on my neck, around my neck. L-glutamine pulls ammonia and yeast out of the brain. Frankincense opens up that blood-brain barrier, so it works more efficiently. When you're working with yeast, again, make sure your bowels are moving 3 times a day. If you have jock itch or if it's on the skin, you can use Party Arco, coconut oil, or Silver Shield. For that one person that had that name of the disease, I don't know what it is, I would probably use either the Party Arco or the Silver Shield. In the folds of your skin, I had someone call me up and said, they are going to remove my belly button. I said, it's a hole. How can they remove it? They said, well, they're going to take it out and they're going to sew it closed because I have a fungus infection in there. I have yeast in there, and it's sore and it seeps and it's bloody. And they said, I could go sepsis and stuff like that. You don't want to let something like that go. I can understand that. So I said, why don't you try keeping it really dry? Because yeast needs moisture. You know, they have freeze-dried yeast that's in a packet, and it doesn't do anything until it gets outdated. It's not until you put it in the water and you give it sugar and stuff like that that it does anything. So I told her to take some toilet paper. I said, take some toilet paper. And she had an innie because she was overweight. And I said, stuff your toilet paper chock full of, stuff your toilet paper in your belly button until it's completely full. And change it every time you have to go urinate. Change it several times during the day. And even though they had worked for almost a year, they gave her creams and they gave her powders and all this different stuff until they got to the point they were going to cut it out. In a matter of a couple days, that was completely gone because she kept it dry with the toilet paper. I told you I had yeasty armpits when I stopped using deodorant, and it burned and it hurt so bad. I tried putting coconut oil on it, didn't work, made it worse. So if that ever happens to you, coconut oil is not the best way to go. So what I did is I took maxi pads, and I worked at home, so I wasn't walking around town with maxi pads underneath my armpits, but I shoved them underneath my armpit, and they were absorbing the moisture, and it went away very quickly. I think by the next day, I wasn't at the point I still wanted to cry. And then just a couple days later, it went away. Toilet paper and maxi pads, those are easy, a lot easier than getting all kind of stuff from the doctor or having to get your belly button cut out. If you get vaginal yeast infections, remember, take care of your husband or the mailman or whoever, I don't know, I don't judge. But make sure that they don't have yeast or use a condom. If that isn't going to happen, then you can work on yourself and you can actually douche with vinegar and black walnut. Or you can take plain yogurt, mix it with water, and douche after you have intercourse. If it happens that you get yeast in your sinuses, which happens a little more often than what you would think, you can put Silver Shield in a neti pot. A neti pot looks kind of like a gravy boat with a lid, and you turn your head to the side, and you pour water in the nose, and it goes through the sinuses, and it comes out the other nostril. So you go in one nostril, and it comes out the other nostril. If you're going to use Silver Shield in that, make sure you don't use any salt, because salt negates the energy of Silver Shield or the effectiveness of Silver Shield. So if you usually do saltwater baths for your sinuses, then what you want to do is scrub that out really good and let it dry, and then use the Silver Shield. Any questions?
Yes. Just to confirm, did you say Silver Shield and probiotic powder on the nipples?
Yes.
And how do you know if you have yeast in your brain?
You don't always know, but you have the symptoms of it is muddled thinking. Probably an iridology consultation would be the best way of knowing. But people say, oh man, I just can't think. I know I'm smarter than this. Or as soon as I start getting tired, I just, like, my brain shuts off. A little bit of that happens, but if it happens a lot, then you could have yeast of the brain. But if you take pictures of your eyes and the white of your eyes, you want to, for the brain area to see if there's yeast, you want to make sure that you hold your eyelashes and your eyelid up and look down and take a picture. I want to see the sclera part of your eye. And then I should be able to tell whether or not you have yeast in the brain. Any other questions?
Can you use Silver Shield as a douche?
Absolutely. I have a lot of people use Silver Shield for a douche that have HPV and have some cancer in their cervix. And I have a couple people that the cancer is no longer there. But yes, for yeast, you can definitely use a Silver Shield. You can put in your ears, your nose, your eyes. You can eat it. Even the gel. You can eat the gel. You can drink the Silver Shield. Any other questions?
That's it.
Okay. Nature's Sunshine has something called Candida Clear that has Partiarco, caprylic acid, and yeast fungal. I never use this because people don't come back to me and say, I still have that yeast. After I suggest the things I already told you guys, they don't seem to have symptoms of yeast anymore. But even if you do use Candida Clear, I would still follow the good diet and eat the fermented foods. Have you ever had anybody use this, Joanne?
No, I usually, the diet's the key, and then do the caprylic acid, and that's about it. If it's really bad, then, as you said, the yeast fungal, but and the Partiarco, but tea, not the pills. That's
the tea's better. Very good point. Thank you for bringing that out. The Partiarco tea is much better than the pills. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
That's it.
Okay. This one I don't do, but I should, and hopefully I'll be able to again. Exercise is very important. I know that it's important, but different things going on with me physically, it's hard for me to exercise. But exercise does so much for you. For one thing, it helps with the bowel movements. The more you walk, the more the muscles in your intestines get toned. I don't understand how, but I read it so many different places that I can't deny it. Exercise also circulates the lymph. So it's very good to speed up your immune system. It brings oxygen to the muscles, to the tissue, to the brain. And when you exercise, make sure you drink a lot of water, because the exercise is going to kill off put lactic acid in the bloodstream, because it kills off the weaker cells and stuff like that. And then within those cells could be toxins. But you want to drink a lot of water to flush that out. Exercise strengthens the heart and the circulatory system, and it helps bone density. Circulating the lymph and building the bone, one of the best ways to do so is by jumping on a mini trampoline, because the lymph nodes are in between the muscles, and when you jump up, the muscles separate, and then when it hits bottom, it goes bam. And it's like giving your lymphatic system a deep massage. Also, NASA found out that whenever the astronauts went up to outer space for a while, when they came back, they had a hard time walking, because their bones and their muscles, they lost a lot of bone and muscle mass. And they did all kind of studies to see what would be the best exercise for them to regain that back. And they found out the trampoline, and you don't have to jump high. You just do a nice health bounce was the best way to do so. Any questions about exercise?
No questions.
Okay, eating a healthy diet, eating 60% raw vegetables, 20% raw fruits, some good proteins, a little bit of whole grains is important. Just as important is cutting out the bad junk. So if you have a huge salad with a large Dr. Pepper, it's not as beneficial if you would skip the Dr. Pepper. So staying away from sugars, junk foods, coffee, tea, and the tea would be black tea, orange tea, black or orange pekoe tea, green tea, white tea, or kombucha tea. Those are hard on the body. Also, aspartame and MSG are excitotoxins, which can actually cause your neurons in the brain to burn out. So I would avoid all the bad junk too. So basically, drink water, half of your body weight in ounces, up to 100 ounces. So if you weigh 199 pounds, you want to drink 100 ounces of water. If you weigh 210 pounds, you still only want to drink 100 ounces of water. If you weigh 100 pounds, you want to drink 50 ounces, and so on. A lot of veggies, a lot of fruits, proteins and fats. Make sure you get good fats in your diet. A little bit of whole grains, fermented foods, no coffee, no tea, no soda, no milk products. Most people that come to me that are really bad do not follow these basic rules. They just don't. When they change their diet with these basic rules, if everyone in the world would do this, there would be very few reasons for an herbalist or supplements of any sort. Because that's a good 80% of getting healthy. So there's a lot of people that say, okay, give me these herbs. I'll buy all these herbs, and I'll take it with my coffee, smoke my cigarette, and eat a Twinkie. They are not going to get where they want to go. You got to do the diet as well. Yeah, there's water, half body weight in ounces. Put lemon in it. Okay, 5 to 7 servings of vegetables a day is what is good. I used to do 9 servings a day. I'm not now because I'm on a stupid diet, but I definitely believe in that. It corrects the pH. and by the way, I'll go back to eating like that as soon as I lose all my weight. It provides enzymes, which is very important. You need enzymes for every single function of the body. To keep your skin healthy, your skin should have a nice, healthy glow. I notice that I'm on this diet that I'm not eating as many vegetables. I do eat some vegetables and they are raw, but not as much. I notice that I'm getting a little bit wrinkled, which I didn't have a lot of wrinkles before. The vegetables contain minerals, vitamins, the pigmentation like anthocyanins, stuff like that, nourish different body parts. Beta carotene helps produce vitamin A. Anthocyanins, the color purple, nourishes the pituitary gland and pineal gland, things like that. And then, of course, you get the fiber, which is important. Fiber not only cleans out the intestines like a broom, but it also pulls into itself like a sponge toxins. Fruits, banana is not really considered a fruit, it's considered a starch. So I just put that in there because I didn't feel like drawing the fruit all over again. I'm not much of an artist and I just hate it. So forget the bananas. But fruit helps. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Someone's asking, are there any vegetables specifically good for hyperpigmentation?
Hyperpigmentation. Typically, is this a person that had the yeast, the fungus infection that's doing that?
This is a different person.
Okay.
Asking.
Hyperpigmentation. Well, let me tell you what vitiligo is, which is a lack of pigmentation. That comes because the pituitary gland does not release enough melanin. I'm assuming that hyperpigmentation would be the opposite, that there is too much melanin that is being released. So if you mean like blotches of pigmentation, then that would be, I would nourish like alfalfa sprouts, whatever, blue, black vegetation to nourish the pituitary gland. If it was overall darker pigmentation, that often is the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands is overstimulating the pituitary gland to release the melanin. So like under the folds of your skin, your under armpits, or in the folds of your skin, if it gets dark there, that's usually an adrenal problem. It's called Cushing's. If you went to a doctor, they'd probably tell you have Cushing's, and that comes from the adrenals. So I'd do the pituitary gland and the adrenals. I'm sorry, what did you say, John?
From acne.
Oh, that you just take care of topically. I would put castor oil packs on. How old is the person that has this? Because if the person is like 13, 14, okay, that's fine. Because if someone's 13, 14, you know, it might cause a couple pimples. You don't want that. But if you're 38, chances are I wouldn't really worry about, I don't think you'll get a lot of pimples. But go on all the things that we talked about, the water, the diet, the vegetables and stuff like that, and then put on, try on 1 or 2 patches first. The castor oil, you take castor oil and you soak it under 100% cotton, and you put it on, and then tape on a little piece of wax paper. After 6 weeks, you should be able to see that scarring going down.
She said picking her skin at all leaves a dark mark.
Doing what to her skin?
Picking it.
Oh, so you mean it's like everywhere, not just like anytime you get a scratch or anything like that, that would be back to the adrenal glands. The symptoms of adrenals would be being a night owl. You know, you want to stay up late at night because you're not tired, but it's hard to get out of bed in the morning. Do you have that at all?
She says, no, like popping a pimple or an ingrown hair.
Oh, it's not from a scratch or something like that.
Correct.
All right. What is your racial background? You white, black, Asian, Indian?
African American.
Okay. Then I would do the castor oil packs. And I feel pretty confident that you also have some of the liver symptoms. Either female problems, blowing or passing gas, waking up at night, tight shoulder muscles. Those are some of the main things. Because I'm from France. My lineage is from France. We have really, really messed up bowels, and we have really, really messed up lymphatic systems. People whose ancestries came from Africa typically have liver. So do you have any of those symptoms that I talked about?
She says definitely tight shoulders and lots of bloating.
Okay. Well, what happens is this. Vitamin A thins out scarring. The liver produces vitamin A. I think there's a good chance, especially since that you said tightness in the shoulders and bloating. By any chance, you're supposed to sleep the whole night through. Do you ever wake up at night?
Only around her period because she sweats profusely at that time.
Okay, well, actually, night sweats is liver too. Okay, so I would also work with your liver. I would take Liver Cleanse formula until you always sleep the whole night through and you have no more night sweats and the muscles on top of your shoulders relax and you know it's more bloating. Doing the castor oil will take care of the ones that are already scarred. It'll help thin out the scars. But the next time you want to pop a zit, if you take care of your liver and your liver's working healthy enough that it's producing enough vitamin A and E, you shouldn't scar at all. So it actually should keep that from ever happening again. But it won't. You can work with your liver from now until doomsday, and it won't get rid of the scarring that is there. That you have to do topically. Okay? Anything else you know to add to that, Joanne?
No, sounds good. And she says thank you.
Okay. Oh, anytime. That's what we're here for. Okay, proteins can be, if you're a vegetarian, it can be nuts and seeds, or meat, fish, chicken. I don't like fish anymore because our waters are so bad. There's heavy metals and radiation and stuff like that. I don't do that. Carbohydrates, you just do enough that you can put in your hand. Mine would be probably about a tablespoon and a half, maybe 2 tablespoons, with your fist closed. Okay, here's examples of fermented foods. Okay, the last thing is I don't believe in microwaves. And I know people are probably, I leave this for last because I don't want everyone just like signing off right away. Microwaves do not actually heat anything up. In the human body, or actually in everything, there's an atom. Things are made up of atoms. An atom has a proton and a neutron. And then around that is an electron that spins around. in the human body, the electron spins to the right. How a microwave works is they know that food spins to the right. They can get the electrons of water or the moisture in the food to spin to the left. And when it does, those molecules banging into each other or rubbing against each other, the friction is what causes the food to heat up. But when it does that, it changes the spin on some of the atoms of the food. So you get very little nutrients out. And I know there's radiation, but they've come up with something. They said there's supposed to be low radiation. But it's the whole idea of how it can change the electrons. And they cannot work unless they have some of the electrons spinning in the opposite direction, because there'd be no friction and it wouldn't heat up. Anything you eat in a microwave, you get very little nutrition out of that you can use. You can eat it. It'll go through the body. The worst it will do, or the best it will do, is nothing. The worst it'll do is it'll change some of your electrons to going in the wrong direction, and that can lead to disease. I don't know about now, but I remember when I went to college like 2,000 years ago. I think they had the very first microwave. No, just kidding. But a long time ago, like 1980 or something like that, we had a microwave that said if you had like a hard thing, stay away from it. If you had like a pacemaker, and it said do not heat up baby food in a microwave, because they were noticing that people were doing that and baby formula and stuff like that, and the babies were having a hard time thriving because they were basically starving to death because half the food they were not able to absorb and utilize. So I am very anti-microwave. Don't even have one in my house, and my daughter doesn't have one in her house either. Okay, are there any questions? Did anybody sign
No.
off on everything about the microwave?
No. Ada says she agrees with you about the microwave. She doesn't have one in her house.
Good, good for you.
And someone is asking about the diet you keep talking about. What is it?
The one
So
that I
post-
lost 58.7 pounds, that one? Yeah, next week we're having a class on it. I'll even show pictures of before and after. You'll see my bald head and my big fat body. And then you'll see the same bald head on a little smaller body. Still big, but not as big. And the women who helped me learn how to do this, they're going to be there to answer your questions, because I don't know enough about it. I've been on the diet for 5 months. I've lost about 11 pounds, a little over 11 pounds a month. And I feel great. My blood sugar is normalized again. My blood sugar is normalized, and I feel great. And my afternoon naps, I don't need it all the time anymore. So I hope you all come. It's not 100%. There's nothing. I'm not satisfied with anything. I'm a high maintenance chick. I don't like the fact that I don't get to eat as much raw vegetables as I used to. Also, they use a little bit of soy in their products. I don't particularly like that either. But everything else is really sound. And I don't plan on eating on this diet forever, because I am going to lose my weight and then I'm going to go back to eat my vegetables. But I was going to die if I didn't do something, because my blood sugar was going really high. And the herbs, I had to take so many herbs. And it was hard. I am healthier because of this. But it has some downfalls. But I hope you all come and join. If you go to marysherbs.com, click on the little thing that says about my classes and go down to healthy weight or weight management or something like that. click on there, you can register.
I posted the link, so in the chat box.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, are there any other questions?
No, Ada says she's so happy for you. Congrats.
Thank you. I'm feeling really good. And I haven't exercised yet, but I'm hoping that it'll take enough pressure off my back. 'Cause I have a broken back. I broke it when I used to work at at the Shadow Box. Somebody dropped a fountain bowl on me, and I broke my back. But I'm hoping that losing the weight, I'll be able to walk again. I mean, I can walk, but walk a long distance, to exercise. So I'm feeling good enough to do that now. Before, it wasn't that big of a deal. All righty. No other questions? Okay, if you want any of this stuff, Joanne has been a sweetheart. And I'm assuming you'll still help them out this year. Is that right,
Of
Joanne?
course. Yes,
Okay.
of course.
So if anybody's interested, here's Joanne. There's her phone number. This is her email, which is like 3 days long. You get carpal tunnel by typing in her email. And her Facebook group is absolutely amazing. She posts all these things. Sometimes it's funny. Most of the time it's just very informative and up to date. All righty. Any questions before we blow this popcorn stand?
No, Ada says thank you.
Well, thank you guys for coming. If you need me, you can always email me. And if you have any questions later on, Joanne or I can answer them, I'm sure. All righty. Well, you all take care, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you, Joanne, very much for your help.
My pleasure.
Okie dokie. Bye, everybody.